Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the episode of Hog Talk Podcast brought to you by Bet Saracen, Sterling Soap, Roastery Studios, and Arkansas Brewing Company. A lot happening over the weekend. Tonight, we'll talk about the Arkansas Auburn debacle. One of those games that just got away from Arkansas. Upcoming game, South Carolina Wednesday, and then Saturday against Georgia. And then we'll talk some college football playoffs, national championship game, break down some other stuff. But Adam, we'll touch on the Auburn game. I know, with our new schedule and stuff, y'all talk about it on the Hog HQ Live. So we'll touch on, give our take a little bit about the Auburn game, and then we'll move on to, the Wednesday, Saturday matchups this week. But 95-73 loss. They finally run into a buzzsaw, and it was crazy to the point. I don't know how much you touched on it last night, but you had brought up a point of running the zone against Arkansas and how that might affect the team. And I mean, it seemed like that was the difference maker in the game. You let a guy go off for 30, you're running zone, it gave him fits. And when you're never in a game, I mean, this is just what happens when you're just never in a game from start to finish.
This is one that Thursday, I believe I said that Arkansas might possibly lose. And not to get too bent out of shape about it, Auburn plays good at home. They pack the stadium or pack the arena. And we have a tough time playing there. So this was it's one of those, you had 2 away games in the week. You didn't get to have your normal travel plans of, playing at Ole Miss, traveling back to Fayetteville, travel to Auburn. You just stayed down that way because of the fog. I'm not too bent out of shape about it. I would have rather Arkansas not have lost by 22 points. That one was a little bit kind of defeating, hard to watch. Watching the game, I know a lot of times we look at Acuff or Malik, and each of those, Acuff put up 19, 5-time SEC Player of the Week. Now I think he is Freshman Player of the Week. Malik had 17. I mean, you still, we've talked about this. You had 4 guys in double figures, but it wasn't enough. You allowed Auburn to shoot 57% for the game from the field, and this is something that even with finishing with 13 points in Trevin Brazil, I feel like this team gets a lot of their spark from Trevin Brazil and how he's playing and his demeanor. This was something that there was a few times, he wasn't, I don't feel like he was in it, or he was a little bit frustrated. There was a point in the game that there was a loose ball, and that's 8 out of 10 times Trevin Brazil's diving after that, and he just kind of jogged towards it, and Auburn got the loose ball and ended up with a fast break point. And that just kind of like right there said to me, like, this team's kind of checked out. So it's one of those that counting, like Cal said, like, I burned the tape, whatever. Yeah, move on from this. Don't dwell on it. You got South Carolina coming up. You only dropped 2 spots to 17th. So, it's one of those, just have a short-term memory, turn things around, and get back with it. There's plenty of time. If they looked like this at the end of the SEC season, I think that there would be a problem. But being game 3 of SEC play, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, and we were talking during the game. I mean, they're winning 3-4 in a row. They'll win 3, lose the 4th game. They've won 3 in a row. James Madison, you beat Tennessee, you beat Ole Miss. That was a game where what could come into play with this is you should have won that Ole Miss game handily, and you let them back in the game. So a game that you could have rested a little bit into a back-to-back road game. Now you're having to play at Auburn, who, mind you, what we had talked about coming off that loss against Texas A&M. How are they going to come in? It's they're 0-2. How are they going to go 0-3? What mindset are they going to come in coming off that buzzer beater that they now you think about it, they could have easily been 1-1 coming into this game. You get robbed of that game. And then you have the guy, let me pull up the stats, Keyshawn Hall go off for 30, 11 of 14 shooting, 4 or 5 for 3. So you bring up Trevin Brazil. He was that spark for Auburn. And you see the difference that makes when you have Hall going 4 for 5 from the 3-point line. That's exactly what we expect out of Trevin Brazile. Another thing, you shot 46% from 2-point. I mean, you 17 to 37 overall. The shots just weren't falling, and you're not moving the ball. And how they got away with that one, where you don't have a lot of assists, but you win the game. We're like, man, that it's going to come creep up on them, and it did. But the biggest point is, too, what I said, you're winning these games early because you get into a hole where you start off 2-0, you fall flat. Now you are 2-1 instead of 1-2. You're 2-1 instead of 0-3 because you're grinding these games out and then not just blowing this game. Now you can kind of rest because Tennessee and then a back-to-back. That's tough. Not making any excuses. It's just what the schedule plays up. And then you look now, you got South Carolina, Georgia, and then Vandy. So get it together, regroup for this turnaround against South Carolina on Wednesday. And then you go to Georgia. This is one of the games we said, burn the tape, because you ain't got time to regroup and keep thinking about that Auburn loss, because you got South Carolina, 8 o'clock at Bud Walton Arena, and then you turn around and go to Athens, Georgia, Saturday at 3 p.m.
Mm-hmm. And then, you follow that up the following Tuesday, I believe, with Vanderbilt at home at 8 p.m.
Yep.
So, those two games right there are the ones that we talked about. You need to split at this point. And honestly, I mean, at Georgia, I think is a little daunting in the sense of just being at their home. Both teams are averaging over 90 points a game. And, that Vanderbilt one, that one's going to be huge. Vanderbilt's, Vanderbilt is what it is. They're 16-0. They're ranked 10th in the country, but yeah, they've beat Alabama. I don't know who else they've beat. There's still something about them, though, and maybe it's just the recent past that it's like, it's hard for me. I don't see them as the number 10 team in the country. I mean, I know you can't think like that, but that's a game. And I don't, 8 o'clock weeknight, Bud Walton Arena is going to be packed. Mm-hmm. But they're going to need it to be packed just to give them whatever advantage that they're going to have during that game. But so you've got a stretch here to finish out the month of January. That's, there's a lot on the table coming up. I'm looking at Vanderbilt's recent schedule.
They got at Texas, Florida, mm-hmm. then us at Fayetteville.
So they've got a tough stretch too. They beat Alabama this weekend 96-90. They beat South Carolina. I mean, outside of Memphis, who we played as well, Vanderbilt hadn't played anybody.
They haven't, but granted, you give somebody a chip on their shoulder. Look what their football team did, and we can talk about this because this will segue. We'll have Kyle Sutherland coming on at 6:35. But look at these schools that are good at everything now. I'm not saying Vanderbilt will go to the college football playoffs and win a national championship, but they are good in football. They have the money. Now we're seeing their basketball program. Look at Texas Tech, what they're doing in all sports right now. Men's basketball, football, women's basketball, softball. We're seeing more schools be good at everything now. Schools that weren't. Look what Indiana playing for the national championship. So we're surprised because we see the word Vandy. Look at what Vanderbilt's women's basketball team's doing with Shea Raff. A lot of people, yeah, they're really good, but they're not used to because it's a women's program. Now you're going to start paying attention to it. But you keep letting them win and you get what their chip's already on their shoulder. Now you're giving the chip and confidence. They're going to be dangerous. Mm-hmm. And that's not a team you want to play around with. And to answer Collier's question, if you lose to Vandy in Georgia, you really got to think about how are they going to bounce back. Is this team that is young, your leaders are young, Malik and Darius, how are they going to adjust to this? Ruskin and Zach made a great point of you let Darius Acuff do his thing and you try to stop the other four guys. Is there starting to become a game plan for Arkansas of let's change this thing up? We'll let Darius do his thing, and we're going to try to slow down the other four.
I feel like the Auburn game gave future team, doesn't matter who it is, some tape. What did Auburn do at the beginning of the game? They threw the zone at us. And that's something that, we haven't seen a lot of, but these guys are going to, like I said, this is game 3 of the SEC season. So yeah, if we drop both of those to Vandy and Georgia, I could see us being that 8-9 if the rest of the SEC season continues that way. Let's say you lose both of those games, but then turn around and win out in the SEC. Then you've only got 3 losses in SEC play. So there's a lot left to go on it. And do you trust Coach Calipari to have this team? Let's just play hypotheticals here. So you lose those 2 games. Seeing what we saw last season, starting off the SEC play 0-5, do you trust Coach Cal to do whatever to get this team back ready before the SEC tournament? I do. I think that they've got to figure out something with their bigs. I know we've had several comments here. We don't have a center. We've got power forwards. I think at some point before SEC play, and I know one of the foreign players, I can't remember which one, has been out with injury. I think surgery before he got here. I think it was Ratal, if I remember right. Could be wrong on that. I think you've got to look at one of these guys on who can we slowly bring in to get ready to be able to have maybe not be your center or be it, just another body that could be to play your 4 or your 5. Because having Malik Ewan and having Nick Pringle and that really being it, because like we've talked about, Trevor Brazil's that stretch 4, still kind of, he doesn't play in the inside whatsoever. So what can you do between now and the SEC tournament with your bench to find some sort of help on the inside? Because they're going to have it. Or once again, we're going to get matched up with somebody in the NCAA tournament that's got true bigs that we don't have an answer for.
Yeah, it's going to come to the point too where you've got to have Pringle and Ewan step up. You got to, that's one of the things where you're going to get into SEC play. You've got to have both of them playing. Now, you don't have to have both of them scoring in double digits, but you look at Pringle, 15 minutes, 2 shots, 3 points. I'm looking 2 rebounds. Ewan, 12 rebounds. So if you can get Pringle and Ewan to have a Pringle or a Ewan type performance where they're getting 9-10 points, but yet you're getting 8 to 10 rebounds each. If they're making a difference, you're not having Nick Pringle go minus 21, but Darius Acuff, minus 30 for the game. You got to have to where everybody's clicking. It was, to me, where, again, I think it was a game that was getting away from them. They kind of just let go of the rope of the game. Then that happens. But you can't let it become what we talked about on Thursday. You can't let it become a phase. You can't let it become a pattern. You take this game, shake it off, and prove to us that this is just a one-off. If you start letting other teams come in there and you give them a chance where they feel like they can beat you, now you're going to be looking at an 0-3 spike. You're going to be looking at an 0-3, 3-game losing streak per se.
Everybody get ready in 6 days.
6 days.
We'll have a new raffle starting for the LSU game in 6 days. So everybody get your pocketbooks ready.
Yeah. I forgot that you're still here. Right.
Yeah.
We need to clip that up when we do. You're still here.
But I'm just waiting to see the Nick Pringle that we saw at South Carolina. If he's in Fayetteville, please show yourself, because he just hasn't really. We haven't seen it. We've got little glimpses of it, and Malik Ewan can play anywhere on the floor, but it's just like, hey, we need you to be that 4 or 5. And yeah, you had the 12 boards and whatnot. There's just too much disappearing acts that happen. Have we ever played? Yeah. I don't know if we've played Ewan and Pringle at the same time.
I don't know. I'm sure there has been, but I can't.
Non-con possibly, but I don't know.
I don't think
They'll
you can
figure
afford
this
to
out.
if they're
Like,
not playing the way they are. You can't afford to. Now, if they both start stepping up, like the game against Ole Miss, if they were playing up to their potential, that would have been a perfect time to where you can use them because their length was getting to Arkansas. But you got to have them both being able to play at the top of their game. That's what we were, and look, we give the football team and the coaches talking about fast. We're fast. So this is the fastest team we are, and this and that. There was a lot of talk coming into how long and tall this team was. We finally got some inside presence. We finally got some height. Where's it been? So we got to start having that conversation. Where's the height been? You like you said, why are they playing the way they are at South Carolina? It's almost like the contract talks we were having. You're in a contract year. You're playing really good. Then you get the bag. You come to Arkansas. We kind of fall out a little bit. So, it's going to get to the point, though. We'll go back to that comment Collier said. If you start going on a losing streak, you're going to start feeling the pressure. You're going to start feeling the heat because there's more pressure on you this year because there's more talent. There's more expectations. This team has to make the Sweet 16 further, or it will be a disappointment. In my opinion, you have to make the Sweet 16 this year. And I guarantee you start going on a slip now. Who you got at the end of the month? Don't you start slipping and let Kentucky come in here with some juice, with some confidence, thinking they could beat you because you don't think overall new team, same coach. You don't think they're not thinking about the last year's game where you were making their fans leave. This is going to be their Super Bowl, and I'm not saying that in a trolling way. They are going to want this game more than any other game outside of the Louisville game because of the rivalry. You got to quickly get it together. You have to make sure that you prove to yourselves, not us, prove to yourselves this is a one-off, and you shake it off. And we're coming back on Thursday like, okay, all right, they got together. We ain't got nothing to worry about. But it's a must. There's too much pressure. There's too much talent. If you want to be in that elite talk like your baseball program, call me out. There's no excuses. Can't say you're tired. Exactly what right. There's no excuses anymore with it. You're getting the money. You've got the talent. You've got to put it on the court. All there is to it.
And we all know that John Pelfrey 2.0, Mark Pope, will not let his team forget about what happened last year. So, and especially because Mark Pope's probably going to be like, hey, there are these two fools, Adam and Porter, that are going to be in the stands, and we have to ruin their evenings.
Yeah.
So, no, it's something I don't believe that Cal will have these guys ready for it, especially that Kentucky game, but the next two games. So there was another game, I believe, this season so far that Cal kind of said the same thing, like burn the tape. And they came right back out the game after. And
was it Michigan State?
I think it may have been the Michigan State game. And it's early. So I'm not going to get bent out of shape for it. But I will say, let me look at the schedule right quick. I would say you can't have too many more of those, but I would like to see, kind of by that LSU Oklahoma game or LSU and Oklahoma games leading up to Kentucky. I think you've got to have things tightened up. You've got to have things figured out by the end of the month.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But at the same time, you know what? We got South Carolina this week or, midweek and then at Georgia. So just get your stuff figured out. And, if Nick Pringle and Malik Ewan would like to join us, I would appreciate it. I expect Nick Pringle to probably try to have a good showing against South Carolina this week. Playing his old team. He wants to show them how it is.
Well, and to quickly bring up Kentucky, we'll finish off with this before we hit a break and bring on Kyle Sutherland. You know, you, LSU, Kentucky, before they play Arkansas, you're 1-2 in conference already. And this is the thing I was going at where you're glad Arkansas started off 2-0 because you could be like Kentucky being 1-2. You got LSU, Tennessee, Texas, Ole Miss, Vandy before you got Arkansas. What is Mark Pope's job status going to be heading into the Arkansas game? Where's their head at? Somebody mentioned that they have a player down, maybe 2 by the end of the month. Where's his job security going to be? And if Arkansas wins that game handily, is that going to be the end of the Mark Pope era, end of the year? So he knows this game against Arkansas could be that one saving grace if they start sliding and they beat you. That can now, that one win, that Super Bowl win that we're talking about, can project them into the second half of the SEC play. You don't want that to happen. You've got to finish them off. But it's down to the nitty gritty. You started off, you're giving fans hope that, like we have talked about, of giving fans hope, trying to clear out that PTSD. We're going to be a good program this year. You fall flat on your face. So you got to sit there and drop your nuts. That's all there is to it.
Transplanted Texan, as far as we know, it was a hip pointer with Carter Knox, but Cal's weekly show should be coming up here at 7:00. So I believe he should probably have some updates with it. And yes, Brady, we're going to talk football later on.
Yeah, second segment. Yes.
Second segment.
We get Kyle Sutherland. He's going to jump on here in a few minutes, and we're going to talk portal talk. We're going to talk expectations.
And I saw just to touch on right quick before we do go to a break, saw somebody brought up Chris Marshall, and Courtney Crutchfield has announced that he is coming back to Arkansas too. So there's another addition plus an LSU wide receiver committed today. So there's been some stuff today. We'll get into all that after the break.
Yes. So what we'll do, we'll take a quick commercial break, hear a word from our sponsors. Then when we come back, we'll lead into Kyle Sutherland from Hog Beat coming on to join us to talk about the football, the portal, the expectations of what Ryan Silverfield has for this football program. Answer all those questions right after the break. Searching for premium brewery products that will take your daily routine to the next level? Look no further than Sterling Soap Company. Our handmade soaps, aftershaves, and balms are made with only the finest ingredients that give you the ultimate grooming experience. With a variety of scents to choose from, there's something for everyone. Plus, our products are crafted in small batches to ensure the highest level of quality. So why wait? Visit www.sterlingsoap.com or visit our retail store at 16 West Walnut Street in Paris, Arkansas. Shop our collection and discover the difference for yourself. Upgrade your grooming routine with Sterling Soap Company. Are you looking for a place to grab a cold drink and some delicious food? Look no further than Arkansas Brewing Company. Located at 201 South 1st Street in beautiful downtown Ozark, our establishment offers a wide selection of craft beers and tasty eats. But what sets us apart is our welcoming atmosphere and friendly staff. At Arkansas Brewing Company, you'll always feel like part of the family. So visit Destiny and Christopher Brockett and staff today and see for yourself what makes us the go-to spot for locals and visitors alike. Arkansas Brewing Company, come for the drinks and stay for the friends. Attention DIYers and home improvement enthusiasts. Are you searching for the right tools and the supplies to tackle your next project? Look no further than Mentor's Hardware Store. With locations in Ozark, Alma, and Clarksville, our vast selection of hardware and building materials ensure to have everything you need, whether you're fixing a leaky faucet or building a new deck. Plus, our knowledgeable staff is always on hand to offer expert advice and guidance. And with our competitive prices and convenient online ordering, Mentor's Hardware Store is your one-stop shop for all your DIY needs. Visit us today and let's build something amazing together. Are you looking to take your career to the next level? Look no further than ATU Ozark Campus. As a 2-year satellite campus of Arkansas Tech University, we're dedicated to a quality workforce education, industry partnerships for in-demand jobs, and tailored paths for success. Our programs are led by industry professionals. Whether it's a certificate or you're aiming for a graduate degree, ATU Ozark has you covered. Visit our website at www.atu.edu/Ozark or contact us at 479-667-2484. 2117. Your future begins here. Welcome to Ozark Area Chamber of Commerce, where our mission is simple: encourage, promote, and aid an enduring environment of shared economic opportunity and civic development for the Ozark, Arkansas area. Whether you're a local business owner or a resident, we've got something for you. Shop our unique local businesses, explore the beauty of Ozark, and savor local flavors and find cozy accommodations. Join us in building a stronger community, and to learn more, contact us at 479-667-2525. Remember, together we thrive. And want to welcome you back to the Hog Talk podcast. We'll be joined by Kyle Sutherland of Hogbeat here shortly. But before we do, we're going to talk about our partnership with Bet Saracen. New customers, if you sign up today, bet $25, you get $250 on your first deposit. Promo code is HOG250 for new customers. Terms apply. And now we are joined by Kyle Sutherland of Hogbeat. Dude, you're throwing me off with the goatee, man.
Dude, I know. I got to go back to. Yeah, it's gone. Yeah, I've gotten a lot of questions about that because I've gone with, dude. I think I've had a beard since college. So I'm 30. I'll be 36 next month, and I think I've always had a beard. But no, man, I messed up my beard one day, and then it's just more comfortable. Yeah, it's just kind of more comfortable. So I don't know. I might go back to it at some point, but I figured
I was mid Bet Saracen read. You popped on. I was like, "Is Walter White on with us?" I just what's going on. So I went off air. I went down a rabbit hole. But hey, Kyle, man, for real, thank you for joining us. Hogbeat, man. I know talking with you and Cabo, man, y'all have been crazy busy this portal season. So just kind of catch us up as best as you can. You know, the whirlwind of, it starts off slow. Arkansas is kind of getting some negative publicity about their portal, and then they just start going on a little tear. So just kind of catch us up to date with some big names that Silverfield's been doing, what you think they've done overall, your overall grade for them, and just throw out some names that maybe, are to come for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely been crazy. It all started, I guess we got the first one, Christian Harrison, the great Rodney Harrison's son. He was on Sunday not this past Sunday, but the one before. And then after that, it's just been a domino effect of 3 or 4 or even 5. I think the most we've had in one day is 7, if I remember right. That was a crazy day, like on Friday or Saturday, whenever it was. But yeah, I think, going back to what Silverfield had talked about on radio shows, what he said in his press conference about how there's going to be more money and all these different things. I think people were expecting, top 5 prospects maybe immediately. And look, I understand you got to, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you had tons and tons of, really all across the board, but especially defensively. But now as we record, they're I think at 34 now. They got 30. Their very 4th one with was it Jelani Watkins, I believe it was, from LSU. So man, it's gone, like you guys said, it's gone really fast, but I think they've done pretty well overall. Still would like to see maybe 1 or 2 more defensive tackles. When you look at the list, I'll say the first one that really pops off to me is Jamonta Waller. We actually got word that he was going to come to Arkansas probably around December 10th, December 11th. And he actually he started at, I don't know how much you guys have read into it, but he started at Auburn. He was recruited there by Ron Roberts before, Ron was only there a year. They had a really good relationship, but a foot injury his freshman year really set him back, and he kind of got buried on the depth chart last year. But this was a guy that was, I think, top 150, 125, something in that range coming out of high school, depending on what outlet you looked at. 4-star consensus. That's a guy that you're going to really like there on the edge. I really like Jaquavian Smith from Howard. I think did a really good job there at the FCS ranks. I'm like everybody else. I love Lakai Rowland. Would have loved to get Ricardo Jones to pair along with, is it Shelton Lewis? I'm still getting their names right, from Clemson. I think it was Shelton something. I think it is Lewis. But yeah, you missed on a couple. That's going to happen in this cycle. I think there's a few receivers in there like the Malcolm Simmonses of the world, the Iverson Hooks that thought you might get. I thought for sure that you would get one of those 2 guys. But Braden Fuller, the quarterback from Angelo State, he's really intriguing. I think Trinidad Chambliss really opened up a door, not just for quarterbacks, but D2 kids in general. And I'm not saying that Braden's going to turn into, what Trinidad did this year, but to get that kind of experience, even though it wasn't the D2 level, it was a Harlan Hill finalist in 2024 before he got hurt. So those are some ones that really stick out too. And Chris Marshall, wide receiver, big play guy. I know that he's had his struggles in the past off the field, but seems like they've vetted him really well. He's hopefully learned from his past mistakes, and he can do some really good things there for the receiving corps.
Bringing up quarterbacks, how do we feel at this moment? KJ Jackson, AJ Hill, Braden Fuller, and then of course, it hasn't been officially announced, I don't think, but the drama that we saw this weekend with Casey Dick and Silverfield and potentially Hank Hendricks reclassifying. Is there anything? I mean, if Hendricks does end up reclassifying, how do you feel about the quarterback room? Is that truly just coming in to prepare for a year before he competes, or where does this quarterback room really sit right now?
I think it would be. I got a chance to see Hank. I saw him in person because I called games for Pulaski Academy. I was on the broadcast team for them. They used to call games for 103.7 The Buzz, but was on the PA network this year. And that was the first playoff game that we had was Fayetteville. I got a chance to see him in person, saw a lot of his film. I didn't grow up. I lived in San Antonio for 3 years. So, and he went to Bernie. So talked to a lot of people from there once he transferred to Arkansas. And look, I'm impressed with the kid. He's got a great arm. I think he does have a great future. But he's not, let's call it what it is. He's 16, 17 years old. He's not ready for SEC football right now. So I think that would be more of just hey, let's, get you prepared, get you in here, and we'll see what happens for the future. But Adam, you're right. I mean, I would say you like the names that you have in there, but as far as at a Power 4 level, extremely unproven. Yeah, KJ Jackson did some good things in the games that he played. I know that, coming in during the Texas game, did some really good things. I think it was 2 scoring drives in the second half, and then started the Missouri game, got to play some in that. So yeah, I think that you like a lot what you have in him. You know that he's a competitor. You knew that going along with with how they he and KJ competed, or him and Talon competed last year, and just how good of an attitude that he kept about that. So yeah, really a lot of unproven. I'll say that there is a ton of unproven on the offense, but I'm not really too entirely worried. Another name that I left out is Bryant Williams. I mean, guys, go look at his numbers there at left tackle. I mean, I understand it was in the Sun Belt, but man, very impressive there. So you got him on the outside, likely at a left, certainly one of the tackle spots. You get Caden Kittler back, you get Kobe Branham back. Feel pretty good overall about the offense, but it's certainly fair to question this quarterback room because there are a lot of questions to be answered.
And talking, I know when, the whole thing with the Utah coach and leaving, and there was talk about maybe, hey, we need to go right after Kane Archer. Do you think this played into not approaching Kane because they kind of had a feel of who they wanted with getting him to reclassify for the 2026 class?
I don't really have much more to say other than this because there's not much more to say. I 100% think that was something to do with it. I'll say it on the record. And again, it's not like I'm not willing to talk about it. It's just, that's what I was told by multiple reliable sources. I certainly think that Kane, I'll say it straight up. I think Kane was blocked from the University of Arkansas in favor of Hank Hendricks. Yeah.
It's a big thing. So looking at
that's what I think. I'm not saying it's fact. That's what I think. So
we've been saying off and on since shortly after he announced the UCF, that this was not going to happen. I know there were a lot of folks even with the Utah thing, and then Whittingham leaving, that everybody's like, oh, he's going to transfer back or he's going to come to Fayetteville. No, it's not going to happen. And it's one of those things, people he may eventually work his way back, but as it stands right now, it's fine.
That ship he's moved in and settled there. It ship sailed. Yeah.
Have you heard anything about a former Razorback potentially running it back in TJ Metcalf?
So we've been, of course, tracking them, and then Tevis. That now has he gone anywhere? As I know that they were kind of. I've been a little bit in and out this afternoon.
Earlier today.
I've been hearing Tennessee. I know at least for him, that's no intel, and that's just kind of talking to people and things, but I haven't heard much on the Hogs for either one of them. Of course, once that TJ entered, I was like, man, we'll see, we'll see what happens from here, and tried to reach out. I got a few I don't have a ton really north of the SEC. I don't have a ton of connect. I've been trying to form some within the On3 network, but really wasn't able to find out a whole lot. But if really all of the between, my network, all the other outlets, well, everything that we have here, if nobody's really hearing about it, then I don't know if there's a whole lot of smoke, unless they're just doing a really good job of keeping things under wraps.
And I really want to go back to the Hendricks thing reclassifying, because it goes into where we're seeing recruiting in portal. Like, I'm really surprised that kids are going to do that. Yes, they're getting on campus early, but unless Arkansas just needs a quarterback room that bad, we see how a program like Arkansas would much rather hit a portal, bring in a portal quarterback, especially after KJ Jackson leaves. Where does that surprise you that we're still seeing kids reclassify opposed to kind of holding out and seeing where they can play out if they was to finish out their senior year?
Honestly, not really, because I think that we're going to see an uptick. I mean, nothing is. I mean, we're just seeing so many crazy things now, but I think we're going to see an uptick in reclassification, especially with now that money's involved in the high school part of things. I think it's probably going to get worse before. And look, man, Porter, I know you and I have had, and look, from the first time you and I had this conversation, I think the first time you and I ever talked about it, I was pretty much like, okay, a scholarship is enough. Like, we don't need, and I've evolved from that. And I certainly believe that kids deserve to get paid. And I know I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole here, but like, it's truly the wild, wild west. The things that I have heard since and I just started being on the consistent college coverage beat just back in May. So not even a full year yet. Obviously, I see what happens just in Arkansas alone with the hypothetical transfer portal. Just the stories that I have heard since the beginning of the year alone is just crazy. And so I say all that to say, nothing surprises me anymore. But as far as the reclassification thing, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Out of everything that Arkansas has gotten, because 34 portal grabs, commitments, what do you see a need for them right now, position wise?
I think I saw Porter. One of you guys put the comment up about safeties. Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't know about that many more, but certainly two. And that's why I think it really hurt to miss out on and maybe there's someone else out there that we're not keeping as much of an eye on. But I will tell you that at least two, or at least I'll tell you from my standpoint, at least two more they certainly need. And like I said, I was really high on Ricardo Jones. Maybe one more. I wouldn't be opposed to maybe one more defensive tackle, one more offensive lineman. I think that would, be good too. But safety to me is like, if you have a gun to my head, one position only, that's where I'm going to safety.
Well, and especially, we've seen how this year played out. You can have a top 5 offense, top 2 offense, whatever. There's a lot of pressure, especially in the fans' mindset of you better come blow it up on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And if there's a bunch of holes, there's going to be a bad taste in the mouth of the fan base and people who cover it, because they're like, you're seeing the product of the offense on the field, but if you don't have a defense to back up that, I know there might be some people saying next year's just a wash because, you have a new staff, new regime coming in, but it's still going to take a lot of trust in the fan base, getting people in there to buy into your program if we're still having problems recruiting defenses. Because look in this college football playoff and the defenses that have come to play, we're seeing a change of the guard we're seeing more elite defenses now in an offensive era. And it's really good to see. So, Arkansas has really got to get on the ball with this. You can't not saying you got to go get 5 stars, but
right,
you've got to plug the holes in on defense.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too, and that's what makes you so frustrated about last year, because you look at the record. I was talking about this with Wes Moore last week on his show. You look at the record, and if you have never watched an Arkansas, just 2025 for instance, nobody has ever watched the Razorbacks play. You can't name a single player. You pull out the stat sheet, and you're like, and you look at the offensive numbers first. You're like, oh, they made a bowl. They won 6-7 games, but you don't look at the turnovers. But then you look at the turnover margin. I've written it so many times I've got to memorize 123rd out of 136 teams. And then also the defense. I mean, you think about that. If the defense was 60th or 70th in the country, where would this team be? And I know if ifs and buts were candy, but that's what makes you so mad, because you think about the Chad Morris days, you're getting blown out by a group of 5 teams. You're just not competing whatsoever. But then what was it? 6 one-score games just in this season alone. I think 4 of those were under Bobby. And that's how, there were so many times, and I think 2 or 3 of those were college football playoff teams. Mm-hmm. So that's what makes it even more infuriating. And so I think, yes, you're exactly right. I mean, you got to get a little bit better. Now, I know that, there's the whole thing about, Bobby got maybe a little more NIL money for the offense than defense. That's another story for another day. But I think more than anything, you just got to, like, I'm not 100% sure that I feel like the players were more bought in after, and I don't put a lot of this stuff on T. Will or those guys, but they tackled better. I mean, I know that there was really nowhere to go but up, but they tackled better. It seemed like they were in better position maybe other than the secondary, in better position a few more times I guess Chris Wilson was the interim DC at that time. So I think, yeah, you've definitely got to get an uptick in players, particularly this. I mean, the secondary was just really, really bad. So yes, you've got to get that too, but just for being fundamentally sound. I mean, in almost halfway through the season, we were talking about not missing tackles and giving full effort. That things you talk about in Pee Wee.
Porter and I have touched on this off and on the last few weeks. And this question kind of brings it up with the age of starting quarterbacks skewing older, with all the waivers being issued, pursued, JUCO time not counting, et cetera. Could we see D1 schools seek out a farm team type system with JUCO schools? Because we've heard, who was it? I believe Oakland's coach,
Nevada coach.
Nevada talked about it with Oregon in football or basketball. We saw Oakland talking about it with Tom Izzo and Michigan State. Could we see some type of a relationship with these lower level schools to just potentially be farm systems for a D1 program?
I don't think that's out of the realm at all. Like, you're sitting here, in a meeting room, like all the powers that be, that wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked if that did come up in conversation, because I was actually talking to somebody earlier. I was in the car driving. I was talking to somebody on the phone about how, like, what is it? Is there even hope for high school kids down the road? Because when you're being able to recruit these guys that are getting 6 and 7 years, I mean, I don't know how much more we're going to see that with, now that we're kind of at the end of the COVID athletes and everything, but it's not out of the realm at all. That kind of stuff, when you're talking about farm systems and reclassifying, nothing to that would be any kind of surprise to me, with just where we currently are and where I could see us going.
Well, and what the context of it too is, with SEC, Big Ten, ACC, all these schools going to 9 conference game schedules, these games with those FCS schools or these lower tier teams, you're not getting the money buyout. And so if you don't think these lower tier schools, one, you're losing players for more money to go to better programs, but you're not getting these games, these $1 million buyouts, it's going to come to the point where, to me, where I see it is, you're going to have the 32 team or whatever this super conference it is. And then you're going to have lower tiers. And it's going to be like a minor league system in baseball, because you're going to start seeing in the next 5 years, if it don't go that way, how many of these FCS football programs, how many of these other sub programs are going to be gone? We're not even talking, we'll just say Central Arkansas. What if you're counting on their big game with Arkansas and these $1 million payouts? They don't do that no more. What does that do with their softball program, their volleyball program? We're going to see something have to happen, or you're going to start seeing some of these programs have to shut down some of their teams.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just the haves and the have-nots, essentially, is really what it boils down to. And I think that's what most people are really worried about. I mean, there's like, the reason why you've got, especially, I know that it's like the spring sports in particular have to be irate about going playing and 3-game series like on the West Coast, going playing a 3-game series on the East Coast, going back playing a midweek game, then coming back to the East Coast the next. Like, that's possible, and that's not, obviously that's every sport. It's not just the spring, but I'm just saying, like, we're here because of football, and money is the bottom line is the bottom line. So yeah, I mean, like, there's just so many things that we're throwing out here, but I definitely think that is a possibility. Because I mean, if you don't have those $1 million, those 1.5 games with football, with the FCS playing the Power Fours and things like that, that's going to obviously really hurt football teams, but it's going to cripple other, as you said, Porter, other athletic departments or other sports within the athletic department.
Out of the players that have left Fayetteville, not for eligibility, but for transfer portal, who do you think so far, or the ones that have gone, was the biggest surprise and maybe even be hurt the worst?
You know, the biggest surprise has announced he's coming, but Charlie Collins was one I thought, and he's announced, I guess, in the last week or so that he's coming back. That was probably the biggest surprise for me. To be honest, I was a little bit surprised with Marion Harris, but not really. Like when I'd kind of, I've used to cover, as y'all know, I used to cover high school sports on the beat every single day. So I've got a lot of high school connections, and with him being an in-state kid, I made some calls, and I wasn't entirely, but that was kind of early on. Like, hey, is he going to be one? When Quincy announced as an in-state prospect that he was coming back, and I didn't hear anything from Marion in a few days, I'm like, that's kind of weird. So then I got wind that it was probably he was going to leave. But honestly, none of them have really shocked me at this point. I wondered if Grayson Wilson, I give Grayson so much credit. I know him pretty well. Obviously he went to CAC. I was a CAC. He graduated from Conway, but went to CAC. I was wondering if he would stay. That one kind of shocked me a little bit, but then again, maybe his game might not be exactly what they're looking for. So Boston College was definitely a good fit, but yeah, really probably just Charlie Collins, and he's back now.
Does that truly show you where the state of the Arkansas program is because you either had no eligibility left, and who left, you're like, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
And that just shows you how far of the hole they've dug themselves into. And for all the people that was saying why we need to make changes in this new era of college football, teams are rebuilding in 1 or 2 years. It's not 5 or 6. And we're not giving a new coach 3 years to settle in and then build a program.
Oh yeah.
It's a now deal. And we're seeing it with Indiana. We've seen it with our Arizona State, Texas Tech, these people that are having $20, $30 million. So where does that lead you thinking of expect the unexpected with this new era? Where do you see this in the next year or two? I can't say 5 years anymore.
Yeah.
Where do you see
this even Silverfield, you're exactly right, Porter. It used to be, hey, like when Bielema got hired, when Chad got hired, even when Sam, man, just give them, a couple years, let them get their play. That was what we said every single year. And now Kirk Cignetti has set the bar for everybody. And especially it'd be one thing if Cignetti went to A&M and did this, or like a school that's maybe had some struggles but gets good athletes, but to go to Indiana and do it, it's shown that you can do it anywhere. But yeah, and that's the thing too. Silverfield, look, I like Ryan. I think he's, I've heard good and I've heard bad things about him. I got his number right when he got hired. I sent him, I'm writing about him all the time. I figured, hey, I'm going to send him a text, like just introduce myself. He texted me back within like 2 minutes. And this was like his third day on the job. So he was slam busy. Sent me a very nice text back, he seems to be as personable as everybody makes him out to be. Obviously he's a grinder. Dude is working his tail off to put this team together as this staff, and, got to give it to Gase Crowley, the GM. He's doing a great job. But yeah, it's win now. And now does win now mean make the college football playoff? Now, and I'll say this, guys, we need to get close out of our vocabulary as much as possible, because, I know Auburn heard that a lot with Hugh Sleeze. And yes, I said Hugh Sleeze. That was not a mistake. But Arkansas, especially like I was saying a second ago, think about all those 1 point losses under Sam, under Bobby. What was Sam? He was 8-17 or 8-18, I think it was, in one score game. So people are tired of hearing close. So it's one thing if maybe I think really, if you don't win at least 7 or 8 games at this point, especially with the bar that Cignetti has set, and with Ryan Silverfield talking about we're going to win now, some people might think that the way that he said that, it's college football playoff or bust. Yeah. I think that's crazy expectations. You got to win an SEC game before we start talking about competing with the best and everything like that. But yeah, I think that really the ceiling or the floor at this point, you win less than 7 games, I think there's going to be some and there's still going to be people mad if that happens. But if you don't win at least 7 games, and I'm not talking about your bowl game, I'm talking about regular season, then bowl game, you're going to have some grumpy people.
You can't sit there and say meaningless bowl game and then count that win or count that loss. It's no matter.
Yeah. Bringing up Cignetti and the CFP, what are your thoughts on the national championship game next week?
It's unbelievable, guys. I think I tweeted out the other night, I think the night that they were beating, Ole Miss. Or no, the Oregon. Sorry, that's the other game. When they were beating Oregon, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, all I know is to say that this team is like, I was trying to think of something clever to tweet, like everybody else was. I'm speechless and I'm talking to people about that's unreal. Sorry, I'm sorry, Rick Schaefer. It's unbelievable. This is truly unbelievable. If you know, you know. I just like these guys. They don't have the most amazing. They don't have the athletes that Ohio State does as far as pound for pound. But they're just these coaches have done such a phenomenal job. Just it's like a thing of art. Like, and Porter, I've talked about like with softball and baseball how I love watching like a pitcher's duel, just like the work of art. Watching these pitchers just dominate batters. It's a work of art to me. Watching these offensive linemen perfectly block, these receivers perfectly block, everybody on defense being in the perfect position. And I know Oregon gave them some stuff, but at the same time, you got to credit Indiana for bringing the intensity the way that they did. It's just unbelievable. And for those that really, study sports the way that we do, and, you go past just what you see on the stat sheet, it's truly just like art. And it's like, to me, watching the Harding offense, I could watch them run that flex bone all day long because it's just, I love smash mouth offenses. But just like with Indiana, watching them play football, it's just like watching art be unveiled to me.
It's at the point to where people legitimately think they are cheating. They legitimately think, okay, how is this possible? But my last question for you, I was glad Adam brought that part into it because I wanted to let you put your fan hat on for a second. And how is this refreshing as it's been seeing college football? Because, NIL gets a lot of negativity. Yep. But by God, we're seeing some good football. We're seeing some good basketball. And this is what we want. We want to be entertained. So from a landscape of take the SEC out because they're under a lot of scrutiny of this is the third year in a row they haven't won a national championship. Yeah. We're seeing a lot of
apparently moving across the country or moving across the pond.
So how awesome is it been seeing the Indianas of the world, the Texas of the world, making college football, I won't dare to say great again, but won't go down that
more parity. No, I know what you mean, man. That's the beautiful part. Like, look, there's positives and negatives to everything, right? And I think that's what most people are looking at. It's like, yeah, you hate this wild, wild west thing where it's just like, oh, you're outbidding for people and all those but yeah, it's like you said it. I mean, it's kind of given an open market to no pun intended to like just given so much parity. It gives the Indiana's the chance to compete. SMU made the first 12 team playoff. I know that there's a whole lot of scrutiny about Tulane and JMU and all those different things. And, I think there are some opportunities that to be discussed there, but it's just, look, I know that, Saban and his greatness and everything, but it did get annoying watching to start off the 2000s, it was Miami and USC. Then it turned to Alabama. And I know that Florida was in that mix for a little bit. Ohio State's kind of been sprinkled in there, but it's always those teams that are just, it's like, man, we'd love to see something different. Like we're tired of seeing this team or that team dominate every year. So yeah, from a parity standpoint, I think, and I've talked about this with some of our national analysts too. I mean, that, have covered the game for years and years and years. And this is that's what they've said is this is the most parity we've ever seen. And it's amazing. Of course, it's a lot different too, just because, what was it 15 years ago, it came down to 2 teams in the BCS, then to 4, and now we're at 12 for the second year. So that's also helped it out too.
Well, and this is going to sound like I'm being a hater because I'm an ACC guy, but you're not having a 2-4 team where there's a lot of control on. It's easy to make it to the national championship when you're getting 2 or 3 of the teams to play in a 4-team playoff, or like they were talking about that Bama LSU game that killed the BCS when they got the rematch, and we seen LSU not even make it past the 50-yard line. So it's good to see that because it's giving a lot more teams that have a chance, and in my mind, it's kind of funny to see the Alabamas and the Georgias struggle to, if we had their schedule, it's awesome to see them struggle.
There's always something. Well, and I think too, like the BCS days, you could have a top 15 matchup in late October and their seasons are over as far as the national championship. They might make a BCS bowl, but now, you're coming into the fight like every single week. even some within the top 20 teams or so, you're still having top match. So that just adds to the pageantry as well, the intensity and these matchups. So that's something else that's really good about it is, seasons aren't over with one single loss.
Well, Kyle, it's always awesome to have you come on. Really appreciate you coming back to join us as always. One of the OGs.
Man, I owe everything to this show, man. I wouldn't be. I'm extremely blessed to be living out my dream now, and it wouldn't happen without what the Hog Talk gave me and the connections. Man, so many connections that I made through this show, that we made through this show, are still friends to the Blake Ruffino at LSU. He's one that that old whack job, still talk to him all the time. A lot of the people, man, it's I don't know if you remember Tyler Horka. It was covered. This was in 2020. He was covering Mississippi State. He was who I collabed with. He actually works for the Notre Dame site on 3 now. So yeah, man, there's been a few that I've connected back with, like I've circled back with from doing the Hog Talk. So yeah, man, always willing to help out this show. I'm glad it's still going. 7 years in April, I think is what it'll be.
When I started.
Yeah. So it's been going for a long time, man, and always happy to be on.
Well, man, again, appreciate you coming on. You have a great evening. And look, Adam, you got anything else?
No, I'm going to go watch Monday Night Raw. So
all right,
I'm about to watch the football game. So all right, fellas, appreciate y'all. Take care.
Yes, sir. Have a good one. That will do it for this episode of the Hog Talk podcast. Again, thank everybody for coming on, Kyle for coming on, and Adam will wrap things up. Catch us again Thursday, 6:05, and we'll catch you then. Have a good evening.